we now start with the part 2 of mechanical properties. In the strength properties, we've already completed tensile and compressive strength. Now we're going to look at the next strength property, which is diametral tensile strength. So diametral tensile strength is basically done on materials where tensile testing is difficult to perform. Brittle materials, which will fracture very easy under tensile strength, are tested with the help of a diametral tensile strength test. What is done is a compressive force is applied along the side of the test specimen and a tensile fracture is produced. So if you see here, you have the force which is given to the side of this test specimen. And this tensile fracture is produced in the center here. So it fractures by tension in the center, but basically compressive force is applied. And the stress in this, the tensile stress is calculated with the formula 2p upon pi dt, where p is the force applied, pi dt, d is the diameter, and t is the length of the specimen. The next test that is performed is the flexure strength. So the flexure strength or the transverse strength or the modulus of rupture is the strength of a test bar which is supported at both ends. Or it is a thin disc which is supported by a lower support circle. And when fracture is caused of this under static load, the flexure strength is calculated. So this test, it gives you a collective measure of the tensile, the compressive and shear stress simultaneously. If a very thin specimen is used, this is dominated by tensile test. So if you see here, this is a bar supported at two ends. L is the length between the two pivots. So when a force is given to this, there's compression at the top and tension at the bottom of that test specimen. And the stress for this is calculated by 3FL, where F is the load and the length is the distance between the two pivots, upon 2BD square. B is the breadth and D is the height of the specimen. The next strength which we will look at is the impact strength. So an impact strength is basically it is the energy required to fracture the material under an impact force. Okay. So a Sharpie type impact tester is usually used to measure the impact strength. The next material that we will look at, material property we will look at is elasticity of the material. So as we all know, when we apply stress to a material, there is some amount of strain in the material. Till the point that this strain is recoverable, it is the elastic region of the graph. The plastic region of the graph is a point beyond the yield point where when the stress is applied, the strain is not fully recoverable. That means some amount of permanent deformation is remaining till the failure point where the material fractures. So up to the yield point is the elastic region of the graph, and beyond that is the plastic region of the graph. So what is elasticity? Elasticity is the property of having a constant ratio between stress and strain. Okay. So the ratio of stress or to strain is also called as the modulus of elasticity. So modulus of elasticity is a ratio of the stress upon the strain. Let's compare spring 1 and spring 2. So if a 1 pound load is applied to both the springs, the spring 1 increases in length by half an inch and spring 2 increases in length by 1/4 inch. So what will be the modulus of elasticity will be the stress upon the strain, right? So the strain is more in spring 1 and the strain is less in spring 1. When the strain is less, the modulus of elasticity is higher. When the strain is more, the modulus of elasticity is lower, or the spring is more flexible. Similarly, if you keep increasing the load, you will have the spring increasing in length up to a certain point where when you increase the load, it's not fully recoverable. Right? So it is obvious that more weight cannot be added to a spring indefinitely and still have the extension increase proportionately. Beyond the elastic limit, the stress which is given, the strain is not fully recovered. So what is the modulus of elasticity? It represents the relative stiffness of the material within the elastic limit. So the less the strain for a given stress, that means modulus of elasticity is directly proportional to stress, inversely proportional to strain. So less the strain, greater the value of the modulus. If a wire is difficult to bend, it will possess high modulus of elasticity. Flexibility. In the case of dental appliances, the normal desirable properties are that they should elastically recover. That means whatever strain is undergone, it has to recover. And the second is high modulus of elasticity. So there should be small amount of deformation under a lot of load. However, sometimes we need more strain to develop in the material with a moderate or slight stress. And that is the example as we would want in orthodontic wires. Orthodontic wires need to be more flexible because we have to bend the wire to the arch form. The next property that we know is resilience. So resilience is defined as the amount of energy absorbed within a unit volume of a structure when it is stressed to the proportional limit. So there is a difference between resilience and flexibility. So flexibility is the stress upon the strain. Resilience is the entire energy absorbed, right, in the elastic region of the graph. So it is the total area under the stress strain graph. Sorry, the area under the stress strain graph up to the elastic limit is the resilience. And the total area under the stress strain graph is the measure of the toughness. Okay, so if you see this up to the elastic region, the area under the graph is the resilience. The total area under the elastic as well as the plastic region is the toughness of the material. Okay. So what is Poisson's ratio? Poisson's ratio when tensile or compressive force is applied to a cylinder, there is simultaneous axial and lateral strain. Okay. So within the elastic limit, the ratio of the lateral to the axial strain is called as the Poisson's ratio. In an ideal isotropic material, the ratio is 0.5. Most engineering materials have 0.3. The next property is plasticity. So when the elastic or proportional limit is exceeded, the material will exhibit plastic behavior. So materials will undergo permanent deformation. Materials which undergo more permanent deformation are said to be ductile. And materials which undergo little or no plastic behavior, they are said to be brittle materials. So brittle materials don't undergo much plastic deformation. They will fracture easily under tensile stress. Materials which will exhibit considerable permanent deformation are said to be ductile materials. So the example is elongation of metals used for burnishing. Although in this case, the yield strength is also important. So let me explain to you what is burnishing. So if you have a small gap between the end of the crown and the margin of the tooth, what you can do is to close this gap, you can burnish the material. You can burnish the material. If the material is ductile, it will allow you to burnish and elongate it. But the yield strength is also important, means the amount of force needed to burnish is also important. If you're needing a lot of force to burnish, it is still difficult to burnish. So for example, gold is a ductile material and the yield strength is such that it will allow you to burnish it. However, nickel chromium and cobalt chromium alloys, they have adequate elongation, but the yield strength is high, so they are difficult to burnish. Next is the brittleness. Brittleness is the inability of a material to sustain plastic deformation before fracture occurs. So, dental materials which are brittle are amalgam, ceramic, composites. These are brittle materials. They sustain little or no plastic strain before they fracture. So, if you have a look at the stress strain graph for material A, material B and material C, you see that material A has an elastic region and a long plastic region. Material B has a smaller plastic region and material C has no plastic region. So which of these materials will be brittle? Material C, because it does not undergo any deformation. It is the most brittle material. And material A is the most ductile material because it has the largest plastic region. So ductility and malleability. When a structure is stretched beyond the proportional limit, it becomes permanently deformed. Ductility represents the ability to undergo a large permanent deformation under tensile stress before it fractures. The example is metals which can be drawn into long thin wires. These are ductile. What is malleable? It is the ability of a material to sustain considerable permanent deformation without rupture under compression, such as hammering or rolling into a sheet. This is termed as malleability. Gold is the most ductile and malleable pure metal. So, effect of ductility on stress concentration. If a stress razor, such as a sharp notch or scratch, is present in a ductile material, the material at that tip of the stress razor deforms so that that sharp notch becomes a rounded groove. So, they don't undergo catastrophic fracture, ductile materials, even if there are presence of flaws. So, as you see this V-shaped groove in a ductile material will turn into a rounded notch. What is the toughness of a material? We've seen the entire area under the stress strain graph is the toughness of the material. So it is defined as the amount of elastic and plastic deformation energy required to fracture the material. So the fracture toughness for brittle materials, fracture may occur suddenly at a stress which is apparently well below the ideal fracture stress. For example, ceramic is a brittle material. So fracture toughness is the property that describes the resistance of brittle materials to catastrophic propagation of flaws under an applied stress. What are fatigue properties? Fatigue properties are when materials are subjected to cycles of loading and unloading, such as during mastication. Then sometimes, due to fatigue, the material may fracture much below the ultimate tensile or compressive stress, because this involves the formation of a micro crack, possibly by stress concentration at a surface fault. This crack slowly propagates until fracture occurs at quite a low level of stress, which surprises the patient. So you don't need to have a hard bite and then crack it. What happens is, due to loading, unloading, loading, unloading, that small crack is propagating. A very thin piece is remaining. So sometimes even patients having rice or something, patient will say, just I had rice and it fractured. So it's not the rice causing the fracture, it's the cycles of loading and unloading. So the fatigue strength of the material is the fatigue behavior is determined by subjecting it to cyclic stresses of a maximum known value and determining the number of cycles needed to failure. So dental restorative materials can exhibit static or dynamic fatigue failure depending on the nature of loading and the residual stress situation. We will stop here with the mechanical properties. We have completed part 2. The third part of mechanical properties will be hardness, which we will be doing in the next lecture.